Good morning. Welcome back here to Antigua and Barbuda Today. And let me tell you, let me get the names right. I'm joined by Dr. Colin Donihue, and also, he's from Harvard University, and also Geoffrey Giller, science writer who writes about conversations and biodiversity. And basically, they're here because they were over on my favorite place, my second favorite place, Redonda. And I'm going to hear all what they have to say. So let me say good morning to you guys. Good morning once again. Good morning. Oh man, we were talking about Redonda. I was telling you about my experience, and I want to hear about you guys and your experience, man. So we can start with you.
Yeah, so I'm a biologist. I study how humans are changing landscapes and how species are evolving and what that means for the ecosystem as a whole. So about 2 years ago, I first heard of the island of Redonda. And
where did you hear about Redonda?
So actually, it was through several different connections about this project to restore Redonda to its original state and get the rats, the invasive rats off, to try to conserve the birds and the lizards and all of the special species that are only found on Redonda.
Right.
Yeah, so as you know, Redonda is this huge rock in the ocean. There's cliffs on every side. The only way for us to get on with all of our equipment is actually fly in with a helicopter.
Did he take one trip?
We only took one trip, but it was full. I think we were about 40 pounds within the weight limit of the helicopter. So we had 80 pounds of water and all of our gear. What we were looking at was these 3 lizard species that are only found on Redonda. So there's a lot that's special about Redonda, but these 3 lizards in particular are only found on this island, anywhere in the world. And
only Redonda.
Only Redonda. And
I guess that brought some excitement to you.
Exactly. They're very new to science. One of them doesn't even have an official name yet.
Oh, yes, that's true. Is that the same black one?
It's a little tiny gecko.
Yeah.
I found it under rocks. And then the other 2 species are more common. There's a big black one that's always running through the grasses. And then the Redonda tree lizard, which is more common, but of course, there are hardly any trees left on Redonda, so they're just hopping around on rocks. So those are the 3 species that we wanted to get a look at. So a year ago, just as they were starting up the Redonda restoration program and eradicating the rats, my team and I went, captured as many lizards as we could, took all these measurements, released them back, and have now come back 1 year later to see how the island has changed.
Checking them. And now it's a year after. Yeah. And you were here the year before.
Yeah.
So now it's a year after.
Yeah.
And what has changed? What difference you saw? What difference you met?
The most remarkable thing was the vegetation. Like last year, it was sort of almost like a moonscape. There was basically just rocks and dirt and nothing else. Almost, no grasses, no bushes, no anything. Because almost all that vegetation had been eaten by these goats that were on the island. And they removed those goats. They brought them back to Antigua, and now within that year, sort of the whole island is covered in grasses and vegetation. It's totally, it was just remarkable. We landed in the helicopter, and there were these swarms of butterflies, coming up from these flowering plants. We'd never seen that a year ago.
It's the greeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah. And also, we saw a lot more lizards, a lot more birds than we did even just a year ago, which really suggests that as time progresses and more plants grow, you're going to continue to see more of these native wildlife sort of flourish on the island.
Now, I know you said you focus on the lizards, but what about the other wildlife?
So there's a lot of really interesting wildlife. There are 4 or 5 different, I think even more species of birds that make their home on Redonda. Right. Actually, this week, another team is going out to spend a whole week on Redonda just counting up the bird colonies and seeing exactly how the populations are doing. From our walking around in comparison to last year, it really looks like the bird populations are flourishing. There's lots of chicks all around, these little, I don't know if you saw it, just little fuzzy.
Fluffy, fuzzy.
Yeah,
it's
so
amazing.
There's lots of chicks, there's lots of adults. Every evening they're flying around in
it's really remarkable to see.
Sunset.
So you every evening, so you spent the night there too?
We spent a week there.
A week
there?
Yep. Wow.
So there's no power, there's no water.
You only get to spend a few hours there.
It was amazing.
You guys get to spend a week? Come on, I'm
so
jealous.
lucky.
I am so jealous. I'm jealous. I don't want to say anything. So what is next now that you've taking measurements from the lizards, checking out the bird population, checking out the other species. What is next now for Redonda with you guys and us here in Antigua and Barbuda?
Yeah, so the Redonda restoration is going really well. It's only been a year and already huge changes have been seen on the island. And I think that's just going to keep going. These lizard populations are expanding, and already we can start to see these little tree saplings that are making their way up. And so I think over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, Redonda is going to start looking a lot like what it used to 100, 200 years ago. And so the tree lizards are going to finally make it back up into the trees, and all of the ground lizards are going to continue to flourish, and we'll get more and more birds, and Redonda will be just the way it was supposed to be.
Just the way it's supposed to be. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to go to top of the hour, and then we're going to take 5 minutes after the commercial break and have more chit-chat, and then we get back, all right? So we're going to go to the top of the hour right now with, is it Nicola or Garfield? Well, the top of the hour right now, right here in ABS. Thank you, Nicola. So, Colin, Geoffrey, let me say, let's talk about the real focus of this trip, and you spending a week over at Redonda and all that. So the folks in Antigua can understand the importance of the environment, the importance of conserving the conservation over there on Redonda, because notice face serious now. So we have to get to the importance of that.
Yeah, so Redonda is really unique, and you just don't find those species or that habitat anywhere else in the world.
And you've traveled the world doing
And
this.
we've seen lots of different amazing places all over the world.
So when you report back to folks back at Harvard and everything, do you guys get excited? Do they get excited like,
absolutely,
I want to see this too?
Yeah, as soon as you show them pictures of just those cliffs and the birds, it's everybody wants
it's time to
astounded
buy my ticket and let's book this flight.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so talk about what the real focus of Redonda. Look at the boobies. Look at the boobies.
Yeah, there we go.
I said those birds are so photogenic. Folks wouldn't even understand until you get to Redonda. You really understand how photogenic they are. They pay attention.
Yeah.
All right, so what does this mean for us again? Let's get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's important about conserving islands in particular is that they do tend to have these unique species. So, when you have an island, it's sort of separated from the rest of the world, and so that's how you get unique species evolving on the island in particular. And when you lose those species, when you lose that habitat, you lose those species forever if they go extinct. So that's kind of why it's so important to really conserve, conserve places like Redonda. I know there are efforts underway to try to make it a protected area now, just not only Redonda, but also the water around it, just because it is such a unique and important habitat. And so that's, something that I think, there are people here working in the Department of Environment on. And I, as a science writer, it's really interesting to me to come here to this unique place and hopefully be able to write about it and, share it with people who don't get to visit there on their own, so I can sort of,
and a lot of
bring it
folks
to them.
who live here haven't even had that thought of going over to Redonda. So it means a lot when you guys go over there and take pictures, come back and be on the media explaining to people. And as we said, they should just open it up for a little park. So go over and just visit for a few hours and then get back over to Antigua. So what is next for you guys now? Are you leaving or are you staying a few for here in Antigua?
So absolutely next is this evening I'm giving a talk about Redonda down at the Museum of Antigua and Barbuda.
Okay.
We'll have lots of pictures and actual videos from Redonda so people can get a good look at the species that live there, but then also the scientific research that I'm doing. And then next, we're here for a few more days to talk with local stakeholders and people involved with the project. Then we'll be going home and writing stories and telling people about the experience and continuing to get people excited about the conservation work happening here in Antigua and Barbuda.
What time does it start tonight at the museum?
It's at 6 o'clock at the
6,
museum. It's free and open to the public.
Right.
And if people want to learn more but can't get to the talk tonight, there's a Facebook page on the Redonda Restoration Program. And there we're always putting videos and photos and stories about all the adventures and the conservation happening on the island.
Oh boy, well once I get some time this evening, I'll find myself down at the museum tonight, man. But Colin and Geoffrey, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for what you're doing over at Redonda. Keep marketing it because you have to come to Antigua, so keep the market open. Let folks know, look, there's an opportunity with the different species and different lizards. And as you said, it's the only place you can find them in the world, and that's on Redonda.
Yeah.
And the fact that vegetation and tree life is getting back over there, I can see the excitement in you guys' face. I gotta book my ticket to get another trip over to Redonda. But take the good news back to folks and friends and families alike and let them know what's up. When you write the story, express a lot about the conservation and everything on Redonda and what you want to happen.
Yeah.
To see happen. I know when you get back, you're going to be back again.
That's
maybe
right.
a year
That's
after.
right. We'll be here.
Just to check up on
be
us to
back.
make sure we're doing our part.
Yeah.
Guys,
We'll
thank
be
you for
back.
being here, man.
Yeah, thank you
Very
so
good
much.
meeting you.
We'll see you guys later, all right?
Yeah.
Take care.
Well, Colin and Geoffrey have been doing it big for Redonda here, and let me tell you, folks, the restoration, it's ongoing, it's a process, and we understand, and we're going to save the wildlife species over there on Redonda. Going to take a commercial break, get right back, and of course, in the hot seat, the candidate for, what year is he from again? St. Paul's. Yes, Paul Chet Green. EP Chet Green, he's in the building. I'm a good friend, he's all right. We'll be back after this break.